After this video, reading people will never feel difficult ever again. This is how to read anyone with terrifying accuracy. Listen to me. People are never as hidden as they think they are. Every person you have ever met, every person you will ever meet, is broadcasting their real character, their real emotional state, their real intentions in every interaction, constantly, without interruption. In the micro-expression that crosses their face in the half-second before the smile catches up, in the direction their feet point when they say they want to be somewhere, in the specific way they describe someone who is not in the room, in what they do when someone else gets good news, in how they treat a waiter when they are trying to impress someone. The signals are everywhere, continuous, unfiltered. Hidden not because people are good at hiding, most people are remarkably bad at hiding, but because nobody taught you how to look. Think about the last time someone showed you a version of themselves you weren't expecting. The person who turned out to be nothing like who you thought. The friend who revealed a side of themselves that should have been visible from the beginning. The colleague you trusted who turned out to have a very different agenda. The partner who surprised you in a way that, looking back, should have been obvious. None of that was hidden. The signals were there, every single one of them. You simply were not trained to read them. That changes right now. What you are about to receive is not a list of body language cliches, not crossed arms mean they're closed off, or avoiding eye contact means they're lying. Those surface-level signals are the first chapter of the book. This video is the whole book. The face signals most people miss entirely. The body language they've been misinterpreting for years. The behavioral tells that are hiding in plain sight and reveal more about a person's real character than anything else. The voice patterns that expose what the words are designed to conceal. How to detect deception accurately. And the single most revealing thing any person will ever show you, the one most people walk right past. By the time this ends, you will be able to walk into any room, any conversation, any relationship, and read what is actually happening with a level of accuracy that will genuinely change how you navigate every interaction you have from this point forward. Here is where to begin. Before you can read anyone, you need two things that most people skip entirely. The first is their baseline. The second is a cluster, not a single signal. Baseline is simply how this specific person normally behaves. Before you can read a deviation, a signal that something is off, you need to know what normal looks like for them. Not normal in general, normal for this person. Because a person who makes very little eye contact normally is not hiding anything when they avoid eye contact with you. A person who is normally quiet and still, becoming suddenly loud and animated, is a meaningful signal, but only if you know what normal looks like for them first. This is what separates accurate readers of people from inaccurate ones. The inaccurate reader applies universal rules. The accurate reader studies the individual baseline before drawing any conclusions. The second foundation is the cluster principle. This is non-negotiable. Any single signal, a look away, a crossed arm, a hesitation, means almost nothing on its own. Signals are only meaningful in clusters. When you see 3 or 4 or 5 signals occurring simultaneously, body language, facial expression, vocal pattern, and behavioral shift all pointing in the same direction, that is when you have information. One signal is a coincidence. A cluster is a communication. Now, the face. The face is the most information-rich surface available to you when reading another person, and most people are reading it wrong. The first and most important thing to understand about the face is the difference between a genuine smile and a performed one. This distinction was first documented by French neurologist Guillaume Duchenne in the 19th century and has been confirmed by every major researcher in facial psychology since. A genuine smile, what researchers now call the Duchenne smile, involves two specific muscle groups firing simultaneously. The zygomatic major muscle, which pulls the corners of the mouth upward, and the orbicularis oculi muscle, which creates the specific crinkling around the outer corners of the eyes, the lines that appear at the sides of the eyes when a smile is completely real. Here is the critical detail. The orbicularis oculi muscle cannot be voluntarily controlled by most people. You can force your mouth into a smile. You cannot force your eyes to smile. They either do or they don't. Which means every time you are in the presence of someone whose smile reaches their eyes, who has those specific crinkles at the outer corners, you are receiving a genuine signal of warmth. And every time you are in the presence of someone whose smile stays only in the lower face, mouth curved upward, eyes flat and unchanged, you are watching a performance. This single distinction, applied consistently, will change how accurately you read warmth, rapport, and genuine versus performed friendliness. Start looking for it today. The second facial signal, and this is the one that reveals the most dangerous information about a relationship, is contempt. Contempt is expressed through a very specific micro-movement, a unilateral lip raise on one side of the face only. Not both sides like a sneer, one side. A slight asymmetric upward pull that lasts for a fraction of a second. Marriage researcher John Gottman found contempt to be the single most reliable predictor of relationship failure he ever documented. More predictive than conflict, more predictive than criticism. When contempt appears, even briefly, even in a flash, it means the person experiencing it no longer sees the other as an equal. They have moved into a position of superiority. In a romantic relationship, this is a genuine emergency signal. In a professional or social relationship, it tells you exactly where you stand. The third facial signal is the micro-expression, the involuntary, extremely brief flicker of genuine emotion that crosses the face before the conscious mind has time to manage it. Micro-expressions last approximately 1/15th to 1/25th of a second. They are not visible without training unless you know to look for the specific window in which they occur, the fraction of a second immediately after someone receives information that produces an emotional response, before they have consciously decided how to receive it in front of you. Someone tells you they are excited about an opportunity. Watch the face in the half-second before they respond. If what crosses it is something other than excitement, a flash of fear, a flicker of contempt, a brief compression that indicates suppressed negative emotion, you have just received genuinely honest information. The micro-expression is involuntary. It cannot be faked, and it is very difficult to suppress. Practice this by watching the face carefully in the moment directly after news is delivered, not during the verbal response, in the half-second before it. Now, the body. And here is where most of what you've been taught is incomplete. Crossed arms do not reliably mean defensiveness. They can mean the person is cold, physically cold, or simply comfortable in that position. The arms crossed equals closed off rule is the most overused and least reliable piece of body language teaching available. Stop using it as a standalone signal.
What the body does reveal with consistent accuracy is this: where a person's feet are pointing. This is the signal most people completely miss. The lower body is significantly less consciously managed than the upper body. Most people, when they are trying to manage their impression, concentrate on their face and hands. The feet are largely forgotten, which is why they are consistently honest. In a conversation, people's feet tend to point toward the person or the exit they are most drawn to. When someone says they want to stay, but their feet are angled toward the door, their body is telling you what their words are not. When you are in a group and someone's torso is facing one direction, but their feet are angled toward you, they are more interested in you than their body language suggests. Feet reveal where the mind genuinely wants to go. The second body signal is pacifying behavior. These are self-soothing gestures that the nervous system produces automatically under stress or discomfort. The most common are touching or covering the neck, specifically the throat and the area below, rubbing the hands together slowly, touching the face,
repeatedly, stroking the arm or the forearm, or adjusting clothing that does not need adjusting. These behaviors are not signs of lying. They are signs of discomfort. When these behaviors increase in response to a specific question or topic, they tell you that topic is activating stress. The reason for the stress is for you to determine from context, but the stress itself is not something the person can control. The third body signal is proxemics, how a person uses the space between themselves and you, and whether that space is comfortable or managed. People unconsciously move closer to those they like, trust, and want to engage with. They unconsciously create distance from those they don't. This happens without deliberate thought and without most people realizing they are doing it. When someone consistently maintains slightly more distance from you than the social norm for the context, when they create physical space that was not there before, pay attention to what shifted. Something changed in how they feel about you or the interaction. When someone who was maintaining normal social distance begins to close it spontaneously, when they lean in, when the gap between you shrinks, you are receiving a genuine signal of engagement and connection. Now, the voice. And this is where enormous amounts of information hide in plain sight. The most important vocal signal is not what someone says. It is the timing of when they hesitate. A person who is answering from genuine recall, from memory, from truth, has a specific pattern of response. The answer either comes quickly because the memory is strong, or the pause happens at the beginning while they are retrieving the memory before they begin speaking. A person who is constructing an answer, whose response is being built rather than recalled, hesitates differently. They begin speaking, then stop and recalibrate. They add details mid-sentence. The hesitation is embedded within the response rather than before it, because the building is happening in real time. The second vocal signal is pitch change. When people experience genuine stress or anxiety, the pitch of their voice rises slightly. This is an involuntary physiological response. The muscles around the larynx tighten under stress. When a topic produces a subtle but detectable rise in someone's vocal pitch, you are observing the physical evidence of emotional arousal. It does not tell you the nature of the emotion. It tells you the topic is producing one. The third vocal signal is what someone's word choices reveal about their relationship with themselves and with you. Specifically, listen to how someone describes other people who are not present. the specific language they use, the adjectives they reach for, who gets the benefit of the doubt and who doesn't, whether they describe complex situations with nuance or with simple verdicts, is one of the most revealing windows into their character. Because the way someone talks about others when those others are not present is exactly how they will talk about you when you are not present, without exception. And this leads directly into the behavioral signals, because the behavioral tells are where the deepest character information lives. And most people miss them entirely because they are focused on the face and the body instead of the behavior. The first behavioral signal hidden in plain sight: how someone treats people who can do nothing for them. Watch how a person treats a waiter, a parking attendant, a cleaner, a customer service representative, anyone who is not in a position to benefit or harm them socially or professionally. The way someone treats those with less power or social capital than them, when there is nothing to gain and nothing to lose, is an almost perfect window into their actual character. Not the character they perform for you, the one that operates when performance is not required. This single observation, applied consistently, will save you from more poor decisions about people than almost anything else in this entire video. The person who is charming and warm with you, but dismissive, rude, or impatient with a waiter, is showing you something real. It is not a bad day. It is a hierarchy, and you are currently above the person they were rude to. Wait until you are below them. The behavior will find you. The second behavioral signal: how someone responds to other people's good news. This is one of the most revealing tests of character available, and one that almost never gets discussed. When someone you know receives significant good news, a promotion, a relationship milestone, a major achievement, watch the people around them carefully. The genuine response is quick and unreserved, delight that does not require any effort to produce. The performed response has a specific quality: slightly delayed, slightly managed, accompanied by a rapid pivot to the self. The pivot to the self is the tell. "Oh, amazing! Actually, that reminds me of when The redirection of the conversation back to themselves in the wake of someone else's good news reveals something specific about their relationship with others' success. It is not malicious. It is unconscious. But it is consistent. And over time, the pattern of how someone responds to your good news tells you how genuinely invested they are in you versus how invested they are in the version of the relationship where they remain the more significant figure. The third behavioral signal: how someone handles being wrong. This is perhaps the most revealing character test available in everyday interactions. Watch what happens when someone is presented with clear evidence that they made an error or held an incorrect belief. The response falls into one of two fundamental categories. The first, a quick, clean acknowledgement: "I was wrong about that," without drama, without excessive justification, and without the conversation somehow ending with them as the real victim of having been wrong. The second, a specific pattern of deflection, minimizing the error, finding reasons why it wasn't quite their fault, or pivoting to someone else's error as a way of neutralizing the accountability. People who can be wrong cleanly, without drama, without the conversation becoming about their discomfort at being wrong, have a specific relationship with reality. They prioritize accuracy over ego preservation. People who cannot be wrong without significant emotional management
tell you something important. Ego protection is a primary driver for them. And a person whose primary driver is ego protection will consistently prioritize their image over accuracy, over relationship, over truth, whenever those things come into conflict. The fourth behavioral signal: what makes them laugh and what they laugh at when they think nobody is evaluating them. Humor is the most psychologically unguarded communication a person produces. It bypasses every social filter that manages more deliberate speech. What someone finds genuinely funny, not what they laugh at politely in social settings, but what makes them laugh without effort or management, tells you their actual values, their actual attitudes, and what they genuinely find acceptable, at a level of depth that days of direct conversation rarely produces. The person who consistently finds humor in the diminishment of others, who laughs most readily at jokes that make someone else smaller, stupider, or more ridiculous, is telling you something specific about how they organize their relationship with the world. The person whose humor is generous, who laughs at human universals, at their own situation, at the strangeness of existence, is telling you something different. Neither is a verdict. Both are information. Now, detecting deception. Because this is what most people are actually looking for when they want to learn to read people. The first and most important rule of lie detection is the one that most people violate. You cannot detect deception from any single signal. Not eye contact, not fidgeting, not pausing, not touching the face. Research consistently shows that professional lie catchers who focus on single signals perform no better than chance. The signals that indicate deception are only meaningful in clusters, multiple, simultaneous deviations from the person's baseline occurring together in response to a specific topic. With that established, here are the most reliable deception indicators when they appear in clusters. The over-explanation. Honest people are comfortable with uncertainty. They say, "I don't know," and "I can't remember" without anxiety, because they are not trying to maintain a false story. Deceptive people often feel compelled to fill in the gaps, to make the story airtight, complete, fully explained, because an incomplete story feels vulnerable. When someone provides significantly more
Detail than the situation requires, when they elaborate unprompted, when the explanation has a quality of being rehearsed to be bulletproof, this is a meaningful signal. Truth does not require a complete defense. A lie does. The spontaneous justification. When someone immediately justifies a claim that you have not challenged, when they volunteer a defense of something before any accusation was made, pay close attention. Honest people typically respond to what is being asked, not to what they fear might be suspected. The person who answers the question you didn't ask is revealing the question they were afraid you were asking. The baseline deviation cluster. Ask a series of neutral, easy questions first. Notice the baseline, the tone, pace, physical behavior, vocal quality of truthful responses. Then ask the specific question that matters. Watch for the cluster of simultaneous deviations: change in vocal pitch, shift in eye behavior, pacifying gesture, change in posture, shift in breathing. When 3 or 4 of these occur simultaneously in response to a specific question, and they were absent in the baseline responses, you have meaningful information. The misquote technique. This is one of the most effective practical tools for testing the accuracy of someone's account. When they've told you something specific, later misquote them slightly. Introduce a small error in your recollection of what they said. An honest person will correct you immediately and precisely. "Actually, I said this, not that."
A person whose account is constructed rather than recalled will frequently accept the misquote because they are not working from memory, they are working from a story, and one version of a story is as serviceable as another. And now, the most important thing in this entire video. The signal that is more revealing than everything else combined. Who someone becomes under genuine stress. Every person has a characteristic stress response, a specific way of behaving when they are overwhelmed, threatened, embarrassed, rejected, or in conflict. Under ease, under comfort, under ordinary social conditions, almost anyone can perform a version of themselves that is generous, secure, and reasonable. Those qualities require psychological resources to maintain, and resources run out under pressure. When someone is genuinely stressed, not inconvenienced, genuinely stressed, watch what happens. Does accountability increase or evaporate? Do they become more honest or less? Is their care for the people around them still present in how they navigate the difficulty, or does it disappear as a luxury they can no longer afford? Do they take up space and manage the situation, or do they collapse it onto the people around them? Who someone is under genuine pressure is who they actually are, not their best behavior in comfortable circumstances, not their performance when they want to make a good impression. The person who shows up when things are actually hard, the one the pressure reveals, is the most honest self-portrait they will ever offer you. Wait for it. Observe it carefully, and believe completely what you see. Here is exactly what to do with all of this. 5 practices, beginning immediately. The first, establish a baseline before you draw a conclusion. For anyone who matters in your life, professionally or personally, spend the first 3 interactions simply observing what is normal for them. How do they speak, sit, move, respond when there is no stress and nothing particular is happening? Build the baseline before you interpret anything. Everything you read after this will be against that baseline, which makes your readings exponentially more accurate. The second, start watching the feet. For the next week, in every significant conversation, position yourself so that you can see the feet of the person you are talking with. Notice where they are pointed at the beginning of the interaction and whether this changes. Notice whether the verbal expression of engagement is matched by the physical orientation of the body's lowest and least managed point. Within a week, this one practice will have produced specific information you would have previously missed entirely. The third, watch the face in the half-second after information lands, not during the response. Practice observing the pre-response window. This is where the micro-expression lives. This is where the involuntary emotional response is,
visible before the managed response replaces it. In your next 10 significant conversations, train your attention to the moment immediately after something is said, before the verbal response begins. What crosses the face in that window is genuine. The fourth, listen for the over-explanation. When someone provides significantly more justification, more detail, or more elaboration than the situation requires, when the answer is more complete than the question, note it, not as accusation, as information that something about this topic is producing more psychological energy than an honest answer would require. Maintain the conversation without reacting to it. Let them continue. The more they talk, the more information becomes available. The fifth, watch how they treat someone who can do nothing for them. In the next week, make it a deliberate practice. Every time you are with someone who matters, professionally, romantically, socially, notice how they interact with people who have no power over them and no ability to benefit them. A waiter, a cleaner, a cashier, a customer service person. What you see in those interactions is not a secondary data point. It is the primary one. It is character without performance. It is who they actually are when the requirement to impress has been removed. Freud was right. No mortal can keep a secret. The lips fall silent, and the truth finds another way out. Every person in your life, in every interaction, is broadcasting who they genuinely are, in the flicker across their face before the managed expression arrives, in the direction their feet point when they say they want to stay, in what they laugh at when they forget you are watching, in how they speak about people who are not in the room, in who they become when things get genuinely difficult. The information has always been there. You simply were not trained to receive it. The distinction between someone who can read people and someone who cannot is not intelligence. It is attention. The specific, deliberate, patient practice of watching what is actually happening, rather than what is being presented. Of reading the behavior, not just the words. Of looking at the cluster, not just the single signal. Of waiting for the baseline deviation, rather than reacting to the obvious performance. Every conversation you have from this point forward is an opportunity to practice this. Every interaction is a broadcast. And now you know how to listen. Comment the signal that opened something for you. The specific one that made you think immediately of a person or a situation where you now understand something you didn't before. I read every single one, and the next video goes further. The psychology of how to use what you've just learned to navigate specific situations, negotiations, relationships, conflict, with the accuracy that changes outcomes. That is what comes next. If you want me to make that video, let me know in the comment section below. Like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on that.